we often hear about the cost of Medicare for all and other progressive programs, but we never really hear about the cost of war. What is this going to cost? Why is that?
I think it's because there's this idea that somehow war is going to be a good investment for us. It never is. We have to go to diplomacy, not to military solutions. We have to make sure that we are investing in our own people. And this war alone, the estimates are trillions of dollars that we will spend, even on a limited war with Iran. And think about what that means for people. It means less money for education, less money for healthcare, less money for infrastructure, less money for our lives here, but most of all, it means more devastation for the rest of the world. We cannot continue to have these wars, endless wars, where the people that get hurt are the people, children, mothers, fathers, families, our troops, but also the people of countries around the world.
Hey, it's Jenn.
Jordan Chariton.
And we're here at the No War with Iran rally, or protest, and there was quite a turnout here. When I got
We're not calling in the aliens with our phones. This is for light. We're not at a Third Eye Blind concert with the lights. This is because we don't, have lighting or anything like that. So just throwing that out there.
So fun getting here, I don't know what crowd size you would say there is. I think the RSVPs online said about 800 people. And when I got here, there were Congress people speaking. I missed Congresswoman Lee, but I heard she gave a great speech. Got some questions into Congresswoman Jayapal and Omar and a couple others too. I mean, I did not get Merkley. Unfortunately, you had to kind of chase these people down. Once they were done giving their speeches, they were being, yes, they got to leave as well, but they were kind of being whisked away by their people. So I texted Jordan, I said I got some cardio in because I chased them across the lawn in front of the Capitol building here, but got some good questions, good responses. I guess that's 2 members of the squad, so not doing so bad here at Status Coup.
And you got Omar on the same day that they have been, just disgraceful attacks on Congresswoman Omar. Because Omar, obviously being a refugee from Somalia, made comments that sympathized with what people in Iraq and Afghanistan can face, and of course the Republicans, went in on her and tried to make her sympathizing again.
Yeah, I actually have a story about that. So while I was kind of following Representative Omar across the lawn, there was this right-wing guy, I have to assume he was a right-winger, into the conspiracy theories that have been out there about Representative Omar, just screaming in her face. I actually had a couple words with him to try to get my question in, and he was just being obnoxious and kind of intimidating. But the question that I actually asked Representative Omar was about that specifically. I said, obviously we have, it's really disturbing to the country as a whole, but you specifically, you've been through war, you've experienced this, you're going through PTSD with, surrounding this. You're a representative, you're in Congress, but you're also a person. So how is that affecting you?
And let's listen what she had to say.
Congresswoman Omar, how are you doing personally with your past experiences with war on a personal level? I know it's in Congress and you have this job, but you are also a person.
I'm in Congress as one of the people who have very timely and critical memory of what it meant to live in a war zone. I remember the trauma that I'd experienced. I promised my constituents that I will bring all of myself to Congress and make sure that I give voice to everyone who feels voiceless. And this is an opportunity to make sure that there's a face on every single Iranian who will be impacted if we continue to escalate the situation and find ourselves in war.
So her answer, she actually, at that point when I asked her the question, her person that was handling her was really trying to get her away from press, and I kind of hopped a couple walls to get over there when I wasn't supposed to be, but she stopped when she heard my question, and she actually looked straight into my camera, straight into my face, and answered it really you could tell there was emotion there. There was experience there. Just passion for fighting against this war, and it was really quite a moment. I think it was pretty impactful. So, kudos to Representative Omar for fighting against this war, and Representative Dize, and all the rest. It was good to see quite a turnout here. I was surprised to not see AOC, but I assume they thought she'd be swarmed. I don't know.
And I got here late because I thought it was at the White House, but apparently Capitol Hill. What are you going to do? But you also spoke with Congresswoman Tlaib, who will be going around with Bernie Sanders, I believe, this weekend in Iowa. Rashida Tlaib will be with Bernie. I think the Sunrise Movement, which is obviously the climate activist movement that's been very successful, they endorsed Bernie today, so they'll be with them. What did you ask Congresswoman Tlaib, and what were your thoughts?
So I asked Congresswoman Tlaib about the fact that nobody, and I kind of got a tip on this question from Jordan here, that nobody talks about the cost of war. When we're going to war, okay, that's it, we're going to war. We're going to approve these spending bills. Even so-called progressive Democrats are approving these spending bills for war. But when it comes to questions of Medicare for all or free public health care, free public college and education, people suddenly have questions. Where's this money going to come from? But nobody asks that when it comes to war. So that's what I asked Congresswoman Tlaib, and she had some good answers. And she talked about.
Let's take a listen to what Congresswoman Tlaib had to say.
We always hear about the cost of things like Medicare for all, for free college, things like that. We never hear about the cost of war. How do we counteract that? What do we do?
We have to talk about the human impact, the real human impact. I mean, right now I'm thinking about this young girl in my district named Carla who can't even afford insulin. Her mother constantly fighting for resources to pay to keep her child alive. No, it's just, the human impact is real. I mean, we have sick care, not health care in our country. We have, everything's now for-profit schemes, not only in our healthcare system, but we have mass incarceration that basically is led by corporate greed. We have literally education system that's for-profit. Corporate greed is a disease in our country, and it's now festering into warmongering movements like this that you see by the president.
Yeah, so I was really impressed with her answer. Again, she was being whisked away by her people. Again, hopped a couple walls in the other direction. But I got there. She actually had to stop me from tripping a few times because I was walking backwards. But her answer, again, was you could tell that she kind of had, and I kind of look for the emotions of people too, as well as their answers. I don't want to just hear some canned answer. But I in my opinion, she had some real emotion in her eyes. She really cares about getting these public good things out there, healthcare and education out there. And the cost of war isn't something that should just be overlooked. And she was very clear on that point, and I think she gave a good answer.
And I also think, particularly with Congresswoman Tlaib, obviously she is Palestinian too. So, war with Iran, it's not directly with Gaza, but obviously being Palestinian, and I believe her grandma still lives there in the Gaza region. She knows what it's like for a larger country like Israel to really damage her people. So I think that even though she's not Iranian per se, war and imperialist military might is definitely personal to her. I came late, so I'm not going to pretend to have some grand scheme or thoughts, but I will say, based on my reporting over the weekend at the rally in New York City, and based on what we're seeing, yesterday, like you sent me this clip from CNN, like, oh, Donald Trump, he was so resolute in his speech. First of all, sounds like he just came out of a coma. He's slurring his words, and, frankly, does anybody think that if in 2 weeks, in 3 weeks, head-to-head polls come with whether it's Bernie, whether it's Biden, just beating the living heck out of him, Donald Trump just is going to roll out of bed, and maybe Mike Pompeo whispered something in his ear the night before and do something else here? And also, does anyone think Iran is just going to stop at bombing an Iranian base? You sent me, before I got here, that their commander is previewing, we're not done, harsher retaliation is on the way.
Yeah, that was actually terrifying. I'd stopped at a restaurant before coming over here. Actually, the restaurant, not to plug them, but it was an appropriate name. It was called Hawk and Dove, so right here by the Capitol. And right as I was leaving, the Chariton on the screen of CNN said, what did it was like, Iranian president says that we're gonna, basically, this isn't over. We're gonna do more. We're gonna retaliate more. And it kind of, it struck fear into my heart. I mean, honestly, it's something to cover this, but we're also people, and it's really scary.
We want to make sure that we understand the consequences of hastily decisions like that, and we are now living with those decisions. And so it is up to us to make sure that we are pushing for more deliberative, more cautious, more righteous process.
I think the closest, Warren kind of alluded to it, some others have alluded to this wag the dog, which is basically like, before Kevin Spacey was a terrible predator, in House of Cards, when he looked like he was going to lose re-election, he was going to start, him and his wife.
Don't go missing, Jordan.
No, I'm saying him and his wife are going to start, World War III to keep election, and I don't think we're so far from that, because Donald Trump, first of all, he didn't know who Soleimani was probably 2 weeks ago, and he certainly doesn't understand or care about the geopolitical consequences. And the last thing I'll say, and of course the media is not talking about it because they're fossil fuel advertisers that are with them in their commercials probably wouldn't like it, but let's not mistake it. Donald Trump has explicitly said he wants to cripple Iran's ability to export oil. He wants to shut them out from the oil market. Iran basically rules and has power over, tell me, darling, if I'm right, the Strait of Hormuz.
Make it clear, Anat is behind the camera.
Yes, my wonderful girlfriend is freezing behind the camera for us. She's a member of the coup. But Trump has basically staked his presidency, besides the corruption, in making America #1 oil exporter. He claims that means we're energy independent, even though all this fracked gas and crude oil is not being used here. It's going to other countries. But he wants to cripple Iran and sanction other countries that are importing from Iran. He wants to basically cancel them out from the world's oil market, so America could take over the oil everywhere. Also, I happen to think Saudi Arabia would benefit if Iran was crippled in terms of oil production. And does Donald Trump have any business ties with Saudi Arabia?
Just a little bit. This guy seems to have some business ties pretty much everywhere. He would stand to benefit from this.
But that's why I never bought into this Russiagate stuff, because if anything, yes, Trump and the Trump real estate company definitely did some money laundering with Russia. I mean, all you got to do is read about him in New York City in the 80s and 90s. But there's a lot more shadiness when it comes to Donald Trump and Saudi Arabia than Russia. All you got to do is Google it. Before we freeze to death, what should people know? Obviously, Status Coup's been all over the place. Marcus is in Iowa freelancing for us, covering Biden, Bernie, Warren, Klobuchar. I was just covering these protests in New York City. You're covering this. I was covering Warren. We're all over the place. And we really only have the resources to light ourselves with our cell phones. So should people join us for more reporting and to provide more funding so we could maybe have a camera person here and a light stand and all those good things?
I mean, that would be, I'm not going to lie, I was pretty jealous looking at some of the other media here that had their fancy lights and cameras and things like that. So, no, honestly, we're happy being pulling ourselves up by the bootstraps, to be GOP for a second. But we're going to report no matter what. We'll report from our cell phones for as long as we need to. But the reality is, we want to get to more places. We want to cover more things. We want our stuff to be picked up by other media. And it is getting picked up by other media, even with our kind of grassroots start. But still, we want to grow so much more. We want to have other reporters. We want to do more marketing. We want to get out there. We want to come to your neck of the woods. So if you go to statuscoup.com/join and become a member for as low as $5 a month, that helps us do that. Plus, you get some cool stuff like behind-the-scenes videos and photos and member calls. And this month, we're doing 2 member calls. So it's extra fun, an extra boost there. Plus, we have some pretty cool plans coming up. So definitely right now, while you're thinking about it, go to statuscoup.com/join, become a member. You can also, if you'd rather donate, or if you're already a member, go to paypal.me/statuscoup or gofundme.com/status-coup-news, and you can give whatever amount. Every amount helps. Anything else?
From the Dome of Corruption, this is Status Coup. The Dome of Corruption is behind us, by the way. Thank you for watching, and hopefully you could fund us a little more before the world ends. Good night. Hope you enjoyed that last video. Hop on over to statuscoup.com where you can sign up for our email list and become a member for as low as $5 to $10 a month. Membership is how we grow. That's statuscoup.com/join. And remember, join our email list so we can grow the revolution with you.